Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit ActiveDay.com to apply.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, my friends, that is correct. You have tuned in here to the home for, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I am your host, the one, the only, the ever so beloved Todd Huff. It's my pleasure to be here with you today, my friends, and doesn't matter how you've joined us. It doesn't matter if you're listening on one of the radio stations. It doesn't matter if you're listening on the website. It doesn't even matter if you're listening on a podcasting host platform. I welcome you to the program, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. By the way, program brought to you in part by Freedom Marketplace. Let's face it, my friends, every dollar we spend is a vote for the kind of America that we want to live in. We're fighting a multi-front battle here in this great nation. That's why we have launched Freedom Marketplace. It is a free directory of businesses that align with your conservative values. These businesses made a promise to us and to you as well, my friends. They will not support leftist candidates or leftist causes. And if they break that promise, they will be booted out of the program, never to return, my friends. But these folks don't do that. So if you're tired of funding the woke agenda, check out freedommarketplace.net, freedommarketplace.net. It's free, it's easy, it's, I dare I say the right thing to do, my friends. Liberty and business for all at freedommarketplace.net. All right, so I want to start today by talking a little bit about the latest news, which my instincts are that this is incorrect. My instinct, and now I can be wrong on this, it's happens every once in a while, my friends. Headline here, CNN. Now, CNN were the ones that reported this. Exclusive early U.S. intel, assessment suggests strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites, sources say. So, CNN is out there saying that the early analysis of the intelligence, the assessment regarding what happened to these 3 nuclear sites that we, the United States of America, hit with full ferocity here, a couple of days ago now, back on Saturday, at least Saturday evening, Indiana, U.S. time. Now the early reports, according to CNN, now Trump is out there saying this is not true. There's other folks that are reporting other things as well, but CNN says that these strikes did not destroy the nuclear sites. And I want to talk about this because this, I want to talk about this, I guess, from a 30,000 foot perspective at first. And this is a question that, doing what I do and doing candidly what all of us do as Americans who are trying to get to the truth. I think it was Mark Twain. I think it was Mark Twain who wrote years ago. He wrote, if you don't read the papers, you're uninformed. This was back, of course, in his day. If you don't read the papers, you're uninformed. If you read the papers, you're misinformed. My, oh my. And there's some truth to this. Now, why is that the case, right? Now, I guess first and foremost, you're dealing just with human beings. We are bound to make mistakes. We are not perfect. There are people and sources that give us or give journalists or people pretending to be journalists bad information. That can happen. That can happen. It can be an innocent mistake. I don't think that that's typically the case, but it certainly can be the case. I remember years ago, I used to run a nonprofit organization, and when it was announced that I was resigning my position, this was a position that, was something that for an organization that was, well known in the community. It's well known nationally. It's just we had a local chapter or a local organization tied to this nonprofit entity at a national level. I remember being interviewed or asked, about my resignation. And for some reason, now keep in mind, we had at the time, my wife and I were married. Let me get the timeline correct here. We had been married for about 3 years at that point when I resigned. And our son, by the way, turned 16 in just a couple of days. He and his oldest sister just left for camp this morning, and they actually go to camp in Hillsdale, Michigan, church camp. Anyway, so my son was 3 months old whenever I resigned from my position at the Boys and Girls Club. And for some reason, I did not say this. I can tell you I did not say this because A, it wasn't true. B, I don't know that I would ever. So I don't know. I mean, if it was true and I was independently, able to make decisions like this, then I guess I would set it. But that wasn't the case at the time, especially. The papers said that I resigned to spend more time with my family. As much as I love my family, I had to provide for my family, and I didn't I wasn't independently wealthy. I wasn't living off of a trust fund. And so I had to, that's actually when I started the business that we sold, and then we've reopened that division of the business, if you've heard me talk about it on here, called Red, White, and Brand. But that's not the point. The point is that the media sometimes just, says stuff to fill up space, gets it wrong, realizes they didn't have anything to put there, and they just put something in there. I don't know, but that's, I recall reading this, and I remember thinking, what did I say to the reporter? Because I don't think they were deliberately trying to mislead anyone. I don't know if it was a placeholder copy, if they assumed that that's what I said, if I said something that made them think that that's what I meant. I certainly didn't say that. It's not because I didn't want to spend time with my family, but that just wasn't the truth or the reality of the situation. And so sometimes you just have problems because you're dealing with people in the media. But that's just that's a superficial level. That I don't want to say superficial. That's just digging maybe an eighth of an inch deep. That's just scratching the surface. Then you get to the intentions of the people. The intentions of the people in the media. So if you listen to this program for long, you know that we have often referenced something called the 7 pillars of propaganda. And this is an idea that candidly was predicated upon something Rush Limbaugh talked years ago about, which was what he called the 4 corners of deceit. The 4 corners of deceit. And I forget exactly which of these, what his specific 4, you can look it up, 4 corners of deceit were. But I use that as a basis to think he's onto something. He's, the left uses these institutions, or as I put here, these pillars of society, to further their agenda, to push their agenda on us, to win these battles and so forth. And so I identified a few other groups, and I called these the 7 pillars of propaganda. Now, these things in and of themselves are not, they're like money, right? Money is neither good nor bad. It turns out that it's amoral, meaning it depends upon it doesn't have moral value in and of itself. The same is true for a gun. A gun can be used for great things. I know that the left doesn't want to admit that, but a firearm can be used to protect oneself, to hunt, can be used in home defense, right? I mean, there are legitimate uses for a firearm that are good, but you can also use a firearm, you wouldn't, but people do, to commit heinous, evil crimes. And so the item, the gun, the money, the institution, in and of itself is not bad. It's how it's being used by the person who's in control of it. And so these things can actually be used for good or bad, but they're usually, in our modern society, being used to manipulate us, to push their leftist propaganda and lies upon us. And I'll give you really quickly the 7. This is in no particular order: government, academia, entertainment, media, science, woke business, and big tech. And the left effectively runs all of these. Now, you can say the government is being taken over, or we're actually fighting back, and there's conservatives in the government, at least elected politicians. They're at least Republican. They may not all be conservative, but they're not leftist lunatics. But inside that government, inside the bureaucratic state, inside the deep state, they certainly have people that are pushing a leftist anti-Trump agenda that are embedded deeply in the bowels of the system. Academia, certainly there are good teachers. This is not meant to be a blanket statement, but it is meant to point out that these institutions, these pillars of our society, have been weaponized against average people by the radical left to push their agenda upon us. Entertainment. When I think of entertainment, I think of sports. I think of sports media. I think of Hollywood. I think of celebrities, as they like to be referred to in entertainment. When I mention media, that's a broad spectrum. There's the traditional media. There's online media. There's television media. There's still out there print media. But these folks are largely leftist. Science, of course. Science itself, again, just like the rest of these things, there's nothing, media can be a good thing, but if you have people who are deceiving you intentionally, that's not a good thing. Likewise, science is a wonderful thing. Science is it's a pursuit of truth. It's the seeking to understand the universe and how things work. How God set them up to work is how I view this. But when you have leftist lunatics, or really, for that matter, it doesn't even necessarily matter their ideology. It just means this is what's currently happening. The left is using these positions to further their radical agendas. Same with woke business, same with big tech. And so media is one of these fronts that we're fighting on. And so there is just the obvious that people are people and they make mistakes. But there's also the reality that these institutions are being run by leftists. They're being run by anti-Trumpers. That's a pretty good segue, a pretty good setup for talking about CNN. And I'm going to reference this article at CNN. But I'm going to do that here, my friends, in just a moment. Before I do that, I want you to think about this. Our investments are like seeds that we plant. They grow, they multiply, but are they bearing the kind of fruit that we want them to bear? At 4-8 Financial, they believe our money should reflect our values. They specialize in wealth management and biblically responsible investing, screening out companies that do not align with Christian faith and values. It's all part of their purpose-centered financial planning, helping us live a life of meaning and purpose. You want to see how your investments, or if your investments align with your values, there's a simple first step. You can go to 48financial.com/Todd. That's 48financial.com/Todd. 48 Financial, they're here to worry about your money so that you don't have to, my friends. All right, going back to CNN here, CNN.com, I've set this up to where we know that the left runs CNN, the anti-Trump crowd. They can't let Trump have a victory. And this, by the way, this is a reputation they have created. I didn't create this. I don't seek to come out here and destroy CNN. I tell you what I think. I think that they have tarnished their reputation severely. I think that they hate Trump. I think that they love the left. They love the agenda of the Democrat Party. And I think that they have put aside all impartiality to fully push for the success of Democrat candidates and Democrat causes. That is my opinion. That is what I think. It is based upon things that I've seen these jokers and clowns do. And so this article is written by 3 people, which again is beyond my wildest understanding why you need 3 people to chime in here on an article that it says takes 7 minutes to read. I mean, Rush used to say he was an army of one. I'm an army of one, I guess, here behind the microphone. I don't need 2 other people helping me talk about a story or sharing what I think. But Natasha Bertrand, Katie Bo Lillis, and Zachary Cohen apparently all have to, and fine, if that's the way, I don't know. It doesn't compute with me. I don't know why you need a team of people to write about this. Anyway, here's what we've got. The U.S. military strikes. This is again at CNN.com. This is in the stack of stuff as well on the website if you want to check it out yourself. But the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back by months, according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment that was described by 7 people briefed on it. So they're saying that they've got, I guess, the way I read this, they've got 7 sources that are confirming this. The assessment, which has not been previously reported, was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, that's the DIA, the Pentagon's intelligence arm. It is based on a battle damage assessment conducted by the U.S. Central Command in the aftermath of the U.S. strikes, one of the sources said. The analysis of the damage to the sites and the impact of the strikes on Iran's nuclear ambitions is ongoing and could change as more intelligence becomes available. But early findings are at odds with President Donald Trump's repeated claims that the strikes completely and totally obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth also said on Sunday that Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Pausing there really quickly, I'm pretty sure I saw J.D. Vance in an interview. He resisted giving too many specifics, but he did say, in his estimation, I'm pretty sure I saw this in his interview, so I'm going from memory here. This just occurred to me as I read this. He said that Iran's nuclear program was set back years. That's what he said. I believe that's what he said anyway. I could be wrong. So, CNN saying that's not true. The U.S. intelligence agency says at best we've set this back a couple of months, which is a big deal. Now, even if this is true, that's not necessarily the end of the world. It, of course, would be a problem. It would not be ideal. we took steps necessary to take this out. We thought we had what we needed. We knew that this was not necessarily going to be a simple mission, but we knew that there was a chance that this could be the case. Now, I'm not saying it is the case because I don't trust these folks necessarily. They could be telling us the truth, but they've cried wolf, in my opinion, so many times, it's hard for me to believe this. It's definitely hard for me to believe this. So they could be telling the truth. They could just be furthering a lie. Now, they could be being misled by the people who they're using as sources, or those people could be wrong, or the intelligence itself could be wrong. You get more information, you realize that there is more damage done than you initially thought. But again, that's how this has been reported in the first bit of intelligence. CNN says, we didn't do the damage that we thought or claimed to have done on Iran. Now, this is interesting. I can pause here and talk about this all day because let's just say for a moment, I'm not suggesting this should happen, anything like that. I'm just, for the sake of painting a picture and understanding the motivations and the thinking of different parties involved here. Let's say for a moment that we performed a strike. We did not. I want to be clear. This is just for discussion and understanding what we're dealing with here as it pertains to the media. But let's say that we performed a strike on Russia's nuclear assets. Let's just say that we did that. I'm not calling for it. I'm not condoning it. I'm not encouraging it. I'm just, again, doing this for the sake of discussion. And let's say we took out or we believe we hit their nuclear facility. And let's say, because this is what would happen, the Russians come out and say the United States violated international law, violated our airspace, conducted a preemptive strike. We didn't, without cause and justification, they tried to take out our nuclear facilities, our nuclear capabilities, and they failed miserably, right? That would be the news. That would probably be how they talk about it. Because again, they're trying to war is about deception. And so they say whatever they say. Let's just say then the media, let's say CNN. Actually, let's say Fox News, because this would be more likely the case. Fox News reports this. Suddenly, I've got a bunch of liberals on my social media feed saying how Fox News is parroting Russian propaganda by saying that these sites were were not taken out, and that the attack wasn't successful, and that the people saying these things were actually uttering Russian propaganda and were traitors and so forth. Now, but why isn't that being said? I'm not saying it should be. I'm just saying pause and think. For the people, and I know the people who tune in here every day, you follow this stuff, you're aware, you think about these things. But there's people at your office, in your neighborhood, maybe in your home, in your school, whatever, right? That you know, people in your extended family who don't think about these things. They're led down the path by the media. But if CNN, if this was Russia, and Fox News reported that U.S. intelligence shows that it didn't do as much damage as they first thought, CNN would be saying that they're furthering Russian propaganda. You know that they would be. So, out of time here, the first segment, my friends. Got to take a quick time out. You're listening here to Conservative Not Better Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, my friends. Oz was not here first segment. I'd mentioned the kids went to camp. She had taken the kiddos to camp. So Oz just joined me between the first and second segments. So to summarize for you and for Oz, since she's apparently taking the day off today, last segment we talked about this exclusive report from CNN that said that Trump did not did not eliminate the nuclear facilities in Iran with these strikes that happened over the weekend. This is supposedly, ostensibly, according to 7, it appears again from this 3-person article. They've got to tag team this to share information with us. That apparently comes from 7, I guess, internal sources, either in the DIA or someone who has access to the report generated by the Defense Intelligence Agency, have told these journalists, if you believe that this is the case. So it's either true, right? They saw it, the information that was gathered by intelligence is accurate. There was not this massive destruction of Iran's nuclear capabilities. They assessed the situation. They've come to the right conclusion. They've told CNN, who then gets the story out, and it's true and accurate. That's option 1. Option 2 is that the information is wrong, the assessment's wrong. That's a possibility. Option 3, the assessment is made up. That's certainly a possibility coming for this. This would be par for the course for CNN. If this was made up, the assessment is incorrect, or I just say made up, meaning the people who are sharing the information could potentially be lying. That's another possibility. The assessment could be wrong, and then we go back and find out later that we did more damage than we realized. Those are the options. But to me, my instincts are that this is not accurate. That's what I mean. Whenever I first started, following this story and learning more about the depth of these facilities and all that sort of stuff, I knew we had bunker-busting bombs. I did not know that we had one that could go to the level that these reportedly seem to go to. You've seen the pictures, too. Now, granted, they're satellite images, but these things, if you're dropping one after another, they dropped 14. Each one of these weighs 30,000 pounds. That's 1.5. Oh, wait a minute. That's not right. A ton is 2,000 pounds, right? So that's, what is that? That's 15.5 tons. Is that right? No, 15 tons. Is that right? 2,000 pounds in a ton, right? Oz is still taking time off here. So 15, that's a massive dude. And if you're dropping one over another or upon another, it, at least in the way my brain thinks about things, seems possible. If these things can penetrate up to 200 feet or some such thing, it just seems possible that maybe, just maybe, this could get through the rock and the protective layer above this base. I'm not saying it did, but I tend to think that we completed the job. Now, if we didn't complete the job, there's a whole series of things that comes from that as well. It makes me think about the ceasefire a little bit differently. Because what do we know about Iran? Iran is happy to delay when they know they're dealing with people who are prepared to do something like this strike. They're happy to delay, make it look like they're complying, going along with the crowd, whatever they have to do to give themselves cover and to buy time for their nuclear ambitions. By the way, as we said yesterday, fortunately, most people agree with this and understand this, especially most of you, again, who follow this sort of stuff on a regular basis. There's no way in the world that Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon. They've basically promised to use it against Israel. Like this should go without saying. This should go without saying. Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. And for those people out there who insist on saying things like Iran should be able to defend itself, of course Iran should be able to defend itself, but it shouldn't be able to defend a program that they are using not as a defensive mechanism, but as a mechanism to proactively or offensively go after the nation state of Israel. That should 100% not be acceptable. I don't know any person, any rational thinking person who believes Iran should be able to have a weapon like this, which is designed to obliterate your enemies. Now you could say, some people say, well, none of these should exist at all. Well, I would say, in the hands of the good guy, again, this weapon can be used to simply ensure peace through strength. And some people say, well, then nobody should have it. And I think that's a little bit too late for that to be the case. So to me, it's clear that Iran should not have this weapon. So it's important that we get to the bottom of this. I just don't know if we should base our decision upon what CNN has reported here. I'm going to continue reading this article. Here we go. 2 of the people familiar with the assessment said Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was not destroyed. We did talk about this a little bit yesterday. One of the people said that the centrifuges remain largely intact. Another source said that the intelligence-assessed enriched uranium was moved out of these sites prior to the U.S. strikes. So the DIA assessment is that the U.S. set them back maybe a few months tops. That is what one of these sources who claims to have had access to this report has said as an anonymous source. The White House acknowledged the existence of the assessment, but said they disagreed with it. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told CNN in a statement, this alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets. They're total obliteration. So, I've got a soundbite from Trump as well that I'm going to have to get to in the next segment because I'm just too far along here in the second segment of the program. So you have you have the Trump administration acknowledging that this assessment is in existence. They said it's top secret, so why does CNN know about it? So there's someone who's leaking the assessment. Now, why are they leaking the assessment? Why are they trying to help the United States of America? That doesn't seem likely. I don't know how leaking it would help them, other than potentially, if it was accurate, maybe put pressure on the country here to find a solution. I don't think Trump needs that sort of thing. It seems much more likely to be the case to undermine what Trump's out there saying. Now, some people might say, well, gee, they've got this assessment and Trump's out there saying something that's contrary to it. Well, different departments, different agencies do their own assessments of things. And so it's not necessarily the case that all these groups agree with one another. In fact, one of the easiest things to remember, or I guess to compare this to, is COVID. The COVID origin. There are some government agencies that say unequivocally that it was released in a lab from Wuhan. There's others who haven't made that final assessment. And so this is the sort of thing that, at least that's my understanding as I've read on this stuff. So there is at least, there can be some disagreement as to the assessment. Anyway, got to pause there. Friends, I mentioned this briefly off the top. I wasn't intending to do that, but if you've listened to this program for long, that we have relaunched a division here of the Todd Huff Show called Red, White, and Brand. We help put your logo on almost anything. That can be trade show materials, trade show booths, banners, signage, pop-up banners. That can be company apparel. That can be name tags, hats, polos, sweatshirts, screen printed, embroidered. That can be promotional products, which, of course, there's a whole bunch of those products, from something as simple as pens to drinkware to you name it, my friends. Your logo on almost anything. Red, White, and Brand is the website. Promo code Todd will get you 10% off, and online orders get free shipping. Red, White, and Brand.com. Promo code Todd. I have to take a time out, my friends. Back here in just a minute.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, my friends. Trump is at NATO. By the way, did you see, this is in the stack of stuff as well. We might talk about this next hour. I don't know, but I do know this. NATO nations have agreed to up their spending for NATO to 5% of their GDP instead of 2%. Do you notice anytime Trump's in office, NATO countries actually begin to take responsibility for the activities and responsibilities of NATO instead of simply relying upon the United States of America to do all this? But anyway, Trump's in at a NATO meeting, and he's, of course, asked about this. He's asked about the strike. He's asked about, is Iran's capabilities, are they going to be able to enrich uranium, make a weapon? This is a little bit of a longer clip, but I want to play it in its totality because I think, again, we need to hear what Trump is saying in relation to what CNN is reporting here. Here's Trump at at NATO. Forgive me if I said UN. He's at NATO. Here we go.
Well, I don't know if they've said that, but I'll tell you, the last thing they want to do is enrich anything right now. They want to recover. And we won't let that happen, number one. Militarily, we won't. I think we'll end up having somewhat of a relationship with Iran. I see it. Look, I've had a relationship over the last 4 days. They agreed to the ceasefire. And it was a very equal agreement. They both said, that's enough. They both said it. But no, they won't do that. The last thing they want to do, Katie, is enrich. They're not looking to... They're not... Can you imagine after all of that, they're going to say, oh, let's go and do a bomb. There could be a day in the future, and then somebody else taking our place will be saying, don't do it. And maybe they won't do it as well, I don't know. But they're not going to have a bomb, and they're not going to enrich. And we believe all of the stuff is down there. We don't think they had nearly the time, because to get that out is a very difficult thing. It's not like moving a package or taking this carpet up and moving it. It's very difficult. It's very dangerous to do. We believe it's all down there. We had a tremendous victory, a tremendous hit, and because of that, I don't think they would have been down there because they knew we were coming. When they know we're coming, they're not going to be down in that 30 stories underground. So no, I think it was just a tremendous victory for everybody, including Iran. Look, they've got a country, and they've got oil, and they're very smart people, and they can come back. Israel got hit very hard, especially the last couple of days. Israel was hit really hard. Those ballistic missiles, boy, they took out a lot of buildings. And they've been great. Bibi Netanyahu should be very proud of himself. And they've really been great. But they're not going to be building bombs for a long time.
So Trump says, look, they're not going to be building bombs for a long time. This is the furthest thing from their mind. They're lucky that they have a country. They do have a country. You know, Trump starts rambling. I like it, by the way. He just takes a question that, a lot of people would answer in 10 seconds. Trump turns it into a minute and 45 second, just deep dive into it, right? They don't have the ability to produce a nuclear weapon. Why would they want to do it? They're not going to be refining anything. They're going to be recovering. They're trying to save a country. They don't have any interest in that. If they do, we've got our military. We got a ceasefire. I think we're going to have a good relationship with Iran, Trump says. I think something good can come out of this. They're smart people. They got a lot of things in their favor. They've got a lot of oil. They can turn this thing around, and they aren't going to have a nuclear weapon. So there's going to be peace in the region. I see good things coming from. This is Trump, right? This is how he answers it, and that's what Trump says. So Trump's saying, look, that they don't have the capability. We've taken these things out. Even if they wanted to, they're not in a position to start refining anything. They're trying to recover. They have to be sitting there also realizing that if they even make the slightest bit of a move towards refining anything like this, they've got to deal with the military again. We don't want to do it. I think we're past that point. Trump's basically saying, but look, if we have to do it, we will. You got a ceasefire. Part of the ceasefire means that you got to behave, and you can't be trying to produce nuclear weapons that you've promised to use to annihilate your enemies. So that's where that stands. You may have heard, murmurings of this. This is at justthenews.com. Trump, I know, and we may have alluded to this yesterday as well, but Trump says he does not want regime change in Iran. That's probably where we're going to start next hour as I glance down and see that the seconds are ticking away from me here. But Trump has said, we've made it clear from the beginning that we, the United States of America, going to be engaged in facilitating regime change. But Trump has hinted or suggested that the Iranian people should be able to change the regime in charge if they so wanted. But now the message is a little bit different. And again, I think people misunderstand Trump on this. Trump's position, Trump is always trying to work to achieve his objective. Trump's objective is peace in the Middle East. In this particular instance, in the Middle East, Trump is desiring there to be no more missiles being lobbed, no more threats, no more, calls for the extinction of Israel and that sort of thing. And if he thinks that he can achieve that more with this regime than with the change, then he's going to push for that. So, gotta go, SDG.
Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here. And you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
Order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.